Hey, what's up, everybody? BDF44 coming at you in another video. All right, so I just watched three Blazer highlights, just getting a feel for who we're gonna see on Sunday. Just moving on, as a Laker fan, I'm too through with all the losing. We've given up 134 points in consecutive games. Obviously, it must be said that this game was an overtime game, very different than the Miami game, but still 134 points in both games given up. However you slice it, our defense is not existent, and that is really where we're struggling. I understand that we made some offensive adjustments. Obviously, we scored 132 points, so we're definitely not unhappy with the offense. But the defense is continuing to be a real problem. In fact, I think it's been said that we're probably the worst defensive team in basketball through the last 10 games or so. It is ridiculous how bad we are right now. And we had defensive lineups on the floor tonight. That's the scary part about it. We supposed to have one of the best defensive players, if not the best defensive player in the league, in Anthony Davis. And I just think about all this damn switching. I'm like, yo, JJ, brother, if you're trying to focus on your defense, you're gonna have to switch up the switching. It has to stop, man. I know you don't want guys to play 1-on-1 because you have some concerns there. So you can switch some things. I do believe switching makes sense in some situations, but not in every situation. And I think a big part of why you have the worst defense in basketball right now is because of it. So that's just what it is, man. I'm watching the Blazers. Good thing is the Blazers are awful. That's the good thing. They got beat by 1,000,000 points tonight to the Utah Jazz. I saw highlights again against the Clippers. Didn't work out for them. I did see highlights against them versus the Kings, where they won that game just now. That's what I'm fresh off of, the actual win for them. And they have some real perimeter shooters, some real athletes, but their defense is about as bad as ours. So I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if we lose that game too. But Blazers coming to our house as a tanking team, I like our chances. But the Blazers, they don't win a lot, and yeah, that's what's been going on. I still got some more highlights to watch of them, but through three games, um, they're awful. They really are. They're a bad team right now. So hopefully that means we get a win on Sunday. Um, kind of bounce back, get on track. Sacramento, we're gonna see them three times at the end of the month. They scored 140 points tonight, blew somebody out, something terrible. These are things I'm just paying attention to right now. You know what I mean? Just trying to look ahead, trying not to think too much about our team and more so think about the teams that are more or less ahead of us. So, yeah, man. I don't know, Lakers. At the end of your road trip, you look as bad as you did. I just can't understand why your team can't allow for just a little bit of success. No matter how many different adjustments we make on this road trip, we can't beat good teams. We're getting blown out. We're having tanking coaches call timeouts down the stretch of basketball games just so that they can lose because we're playing so poorly and they really need a loss. Like this type of stuff, man, it just goes to show that the Los Angeles Lakers are struggling in some really historic like ways. Losing close games, blowouts, you name it. We just can't get anything done, man. And I'm telling you, as a fan, I've watched some bad basketball over the years with the Lakers during some tanking seasons, some rebuilding seasons. And we had some rough times here and there with guys getting injured and stuff like that. Throughout the course of years and years of watching the Lakers, this isn't the worst I've seen. But at the same time, between the last three games, we've really lost in some terrible ways, man. With the mental mistakes of tonight's game, with the type of losses that we had prior to, where we lost by a combined 70 points, was the worst it's ever been through two games in our history. I mean, it's like, yo, man, where are we as a franchise? Where are we? I've listened to some people tonight talk about rebuilding, and for me, I've been all over the place when it comes to rebuilding. Some aspects of this circumstance makes me want to rebuild, and because I think that we're headed into a situation where it's either go all in and throw all our picks in and try to make the most of this unit, or start the rebuilding process and try to become pick rich, as I like to call it. Which either way, you're gonna be taking some massive risk with your future. If you let LeBron James go and you don't go all in, there's going to be a lot of people who think that you will have wanted you to rebuild later after he's retired. But the problem is you need picks in order to effectively do your rebuild. You're just going to suck for no reason once he retires and you mortgage all your picks. So that's been my argument. But, the more this team struggles, I think the less and less people like that who want to hang on to this are being heard. You're starting to hear more of the rumblings about Laker fans ready to blow this thing up, and there is a cautionary tale about blowing things up and it not working, having the wrong people in place, drafting and stuff like that. Draft wrong, it goes wrong. You could find yourself even getting good players, but if you don't surround them with the right stuff, maybe they sign somewhere else. There's a lot of different things that are risky when it comes to rebuilding. And in the presence of trying to rebuild your team, you just understand that it's going to take some time. It's going to be some bad basketball, man. You look at Portland, you look at Washington, you look at Utah. It takes time, some bad years, some long nights, some unwatchable basketball games. And we've been through that. A lot of us have already witnessed that once in our lifetime after the Shaq and Kobe era. And the setbacks were tough when Julius Randle broke his leg after we finally got us a rookie that we were excited about. He was out for the season. Like, some of those units we had were real bad. Guys were learning how to play with one another, and it became fun after a while when we accumulated enough young players. But we weren't winning much, man. We weren't winning much. So if you want to start your rebuild, you just got to understand it's going to suck around here for a long time before that rebuild really starts to manifest in any type of consistent winning, any type of championship chasing. It's going to be like anywhere from like 4 to 7 years. So a lot of us are having a hard time with this era, and I respect that this era has really left us frustrated with the last couple of years, bad coaching and sometimey players getting knocked out by the same team. It sucked, but the rebuild, it's gonna suck too, man. And I'm not lost upon that understanding. But the problem is we mortgage so much of our picks, and because of that, you don't really have all you need to get as good as you're hoping to be, in my opinion. There's no one trade that you're going to be able to make that's going to make you a champion, in my opinion. So you're kind of just going all in so that you can be not good enough. And that's not the way to go either. We want to see some changes. And I think there are some around the margin moves the Lakers can make. But the front office has to be sharp in order to walk that fine line of not mortgaging your picks and finding value players that can come in and help us with our win now timeline. And it doesn't, I'm going to be honest with you, it doesn't appear that they're in that space right now to me, where you can trust that they're going to do everything right in the short term so that you can find bargains and it all slip in and work together and get rid of trash and all different types of stuff that really needs to be done ever so sharp. It's like in my opinion, it's almost like a science that you got to be really good at to fix this problem. And I don't think our front office has proven that they are good at this. They've made a lot of mistakes leading up to this situation that left us in this position. And they seem competent enough not to do anything that's going to hurt us right now, which is why you haven't seen any moves. But I don't know if they can find ways to pull a rabbit out of the hat that's just going to balloon into all types of value and all types of talent out of nothing. I don't know that we have that type of GM in place right now. I think we have a guy that learned from a lot of mistakes, but I don't peg him to be like the greatest finder of talent and just getting the deal that ultimately will blow our socks off and making the move that leads to 6 moves that help us later. And it's just a lot of genius type of needs that this team has right now in order to make it a champion and not mortgage your future. And that's really what it comes down to, man. I just think you need somebody extremely gifted and extremely savvy to bring you all that you need right now with what it is that you have to buy. It's like going out the house with $1,000 and saying, bring me back a reliable car. Like, you don't have enough. Make it enough. Like, how do I do that? That's the kind of situation you're kind of in, man. So that's what I'm saying to you guys. I just think that it's a lot of stuff that needs to be done in a short amount of time to make this team as good as it needs to be. And I don't know that we can do it, but the rebuilding process is not going to make you that much better. And all the talk about trading LeBron James, he has to agree to the trade. He has a no trade clause. This is a little late for that kind of conversation. I said we should have did that last summer before we signed him to this latest contract. That's why I was singing what I was singing throughout the course of the summertime. And last summer, the year before this, after we lost in the Western Conference Finals, I was kind of cool, to be honest with you, on moving forward. I just didn't see, I didn't see us being able to get that much better. I thought the Russell Westbrook trade really depleted us of most of the assets we needed to be as good as we needed to be. And it's proven right, man. You fast forward to where we are right now. This is exactly what I didn't want to have to go through. So, at the end of the day, I just think that some of the stuff that we've already talked about is stuff that needs to be done. The Lakers are going to have to find themselves a president, an actual president. I've been hearing Bob Myers' name. I've been screaming his name for about a year now. I don't know if he wants to come in and do our job. Maybe he's not even the guy for the job, but we do need to hire a president. Delegate roles in the front office to people that are specialized in specific areas. I just don't think we have that type of organizational foundation right now, and I think that's a big problem. So it's a lot of stuff that the Lakers, I think, need to do, man, to make their organization a bit more prepared for the rebuilding process. And some of the moves that they're making right now, like the Bronny James move, for example, it's just further digging us in a hole that makes that rebuild more difficult, to be honest with you. You got to value every roster spot. You got to value every pick. And you got to be thinking long term, probably more so than you're thinking preserve the current roster. And that's what I think is best for the health of the franchise. I've been saying that for years. You just got to think about your future, man, because we've done enough to hurt our present by doing things in the past. So we need to stop doing those things. And that's been my argument, man. I don't think you fix your problem by continuing to be short-sighted in the moment. Not with your franchise. I don't think that makes any sense. I think you identify that you've been hurting yourself that way and stop. So I'm just, if people want to keep mortgaging picks, man, I saw what Walker Kessler did tonight against the Blazers. He had 5 blocks, a double-double. He looks great, man. Rebounding the ball. You know what I mean? There's going to be a lot of people who think it makes a lot of sense to bring him in. And you never know. Maybe you do something like that and you do feel great about it. Maybe he turns into something even greater than he is right now and you could retrade him for something more. But if you mortgage your own natural picks for that player, you understand that fast forward to wherever you're at 3 years from now and you don't have picks because you went to acquire him. Is he still on your team being some superstar shot blocker? Or has he moved on to a different situation after 3 years? Is he just a cool player that needs more talent around him to make him better after Bron and AD are gone? Likely. And what have you done? Traded away those teammates to get him. So it's like, I just know better. I know better. There's no scenario where Walker Kessler is worth 2 picks in our situation. There's no scenario where that's the case. or removing protections on a picks from a year where you're projected to be bad. That's silly when you really consider it. So you're gonna remove protections on a pick when it may be a tank year for you, so that your ineptitude ultimately makes it so that Utah's even greater. You do understand that you got to play that team 4 times a year, right? You're gonna make them great, just like you made other teams better by doing the same thing. It's just, at some point in time, the Lakers just got to say, yo, this Bron and AD thing is great, but it ain't worth strengthening the Western Conference with our ineptitude of the future that's going to be ushered by the mistakes that we're making in the present. It's not a good formula for trying to run a franchise. And honoring LeBron James and Anthony Davis like they're Shaq and Kobe ain't going to make your rebuild that's imminent any easier. In fact, it makes it much harder. So, when Bron James signed a no-trade clause with our team and we signed Bronny, I thought that was about as much as we deserve. We owe him, if we owed him that. Not continuing to throw picks into situations and all of that. That's not honoring us and the future that we're ultimately going to be rooting for, which is a team that's going to be running around out there without enough because of mistakes that we made today trying to make this thing enough, and it's just not worth it, man. The whole idea that we need to go all in or go all nothing, it doesn't have to actually go that way. Those are people's ultimatums for what their standards are. The reality is we can keep on doing nothing, keep on running this unit out there, and then just run the 82 games out. You know what I mean? That way you didn't hurt yourself, nor did you usher us into a unnatural, unhealthy, and unwatchable rebuild. And I think that's ultimately what you're looking at, Laker fans, is a team that thinks that the lesser of two evils is not finding some extreme ultimatum like throwing all their picks in or trading 90, 80 and Bron away, but just sitting here and letting them drag what they have as far as they can take it. That way you end the season with those players bringing the revenue into your situation. That ultimately keeps booties in seats, so to speak. And you have your picks in your pocket as well for when they depart. Whenever they depart, you can just start your rebuild that way. That is actually what the Lakers' best bet probably is to balance out both what they want and ultimately what they need. And I know that's hard for Laker fans to understand because I'm listening to y'all. I'm listening to people say we need to either go all in or trade Bron and AD. But the reality is ain't neither one of those extremes best for the health of your franchise. It's just not. And so because I understand that, I don't believe in either one of those extremes. I think you stand pat. I think you try to do marginal deals that don't require you to move picks and don't require you to take on contracts that are crap. I think you try to do everything you can to move on from garbage. And I think you call up young players and you give them the minutes and opportunities that ultimately get the most out of them. And you develop those guys like you should be doing. Your Jalen Hood-Schifinos, Max Christie's, Max Lewis, Quincy Olivari. You need to be playing these people more and getting their value up, giving them the experience necessary so that they'll be prepared for the roles that they're going to have when everybody moves on. That's what the Lakers need to be doing, is developing and working on the infrastructure of their front office. That's franchise health, man, not trying to just go all in just to make people who are short-sighted in mindset happy about the damn team. That ain't going to make your franchise any healthier, man. And trading away Bron and AD ain't going to get you the value that you want for them because of that no-trade clause. And because AD, everybody knows you're going to be looking to rebuild, so they're not going to be giving you price for AD. They understand that AD is likely going to have his say in the matter of where he wants to go. And so that's going to eat away at the price that you're going to get back for him. You're going to be matching salaries, which means you're going to bring back 4 or 5 different players, probably not on great contracts. If he wants to go to Chicago, you're definitely bringing back bad contracts. Maybe you bring back picks, but Chicago is probably going to build something that's a playoff team, so them picks probably ain't going to be as good as you need them to be. It just doesn't look good, man. It doesn't look good. He's going to want to go to a contender, and he's going to want to go to a contender that allows for him to play with some good players. So that means you're not getting back the best of that stuff. They ain't going to trade the best stuff for AD. they're going to trade you picks, and they're going to trade you some garbage. Some role players, some starters. You know what I mean? Maybe some young guys that might turn to something, might not. People that maybe you take in the draft, maybe you wouldn't. That's not the return you want for AD. That's not the return you want for a guy that likely whose jersey you're going to retire. So I'm telling y'all, man, the best thing for the Lakers to do is probably not a whole lot. Not a whole lot. And I know that's not what nobody wants to hear, and that's not actually what we want to see, because changes need to be made for this team to get better. But I think we've mortgaged everything we would otherwise trade to make that team better, and we need to stop the bleeding on that. That's just what it is. You gotta like it, you know. But this is your team. This is what's required so that your team doesn't suck for the next 15 years, man. Y'all want to turn it to the Brooklyn Nets? Because this is what Brooklyn did. Y'all want to be the Clippers? Got a bunch of fantastic role players. Like, that's cool. They're not going nowhere. Like, this is the reality of doing things the wrong way, and we've done it plenty. So, I mean, I don't know what to tell people, man. I'm a person who's been following this team all my life. I've been following it very closely, especially for the last 3 years. I know exactly how bad we are. You know what I mean? I get it. I've been watching these games, these last 4 games. I know exactly how poorly we look, how badly we need to improve this roster is. It's obvious, but the reality is your need to improve this roster does not trump your need to not be horrible in the future. And people need to understand that that's the responsibility of the front office too. Not just today. So that's what I'm always keep preaching, man. I'm gonna make sure people understand that while they're sitting in their feelings about how this team look, or just want to throw it all away because they don't like the way it looks right now. It's like, yo, franchise health is what has been neglected, which is why this team ain't no good right now. We need to stop neglecting franchise health if we're real franchise fans. Now, if you're player fans, this is the wrong place for you. If you're a LeBron fan and you want to see him get a championship, the only thing you need to be lobbying is for him to waive his no-trade clause and go somewhere else. Because we're not going to win one. He knows that. You know that. We drafted his son so that he'd be cool with that. And that's really the reality. And so, if you want things to balloon without having to make any trades in order for that to happen. And you're not going to get that done unless you start playing some of these young guys. Quincy Olivari should have been on the floor tonight. Max Lewis should have been on the floor tonight. Jalen Hood-Schifino, as soon as he gets healthy, should be on the floor regularly. I keep telling people that's the only way you're going to get out of this problem is if one of these players start turning into something that you don't expect them to turn into. It's the only way. This Gabe Vincent experiment, Gabe looked great tonight. I'm happy that Gabe is looking better. I have no problem with Gabe Vincent playing well. There's a role for him in this league somewhere. But like our needs as a team, he shouldn't be out there having those minutes. That should be Jalen Hood-Schifino. That should be Quincy Olivari. Players that you need to get value out of. Players that hopefully have the upside to turn into something greater than they're expected to be. That's all you need to be focused on right now, is finding enough of that in this world so that you can flip it to make up for the value that you ultimately don't have because you've mortgaged. I don't understand why franchises don't see this as clearly as I do. This is clear. This is about as clear as anything I've ever seen in my life. It's just like looking at a stock portfolio. You need something that you bought for $3 to be sold for $30. And so how do you do that but to use stuff that you bought for $3? You know what I'm saying? Like, literally. Instead of trying to justify stuff that you overpaid for when it's underperforming. I don't think the Lakers are better for doing this at all. This Gabe Vincent, Cam Reddish stuff, that don't do nothing for your overall franchise health. And it ain't doing nothing for this unit, if I'm being honest with you. So I just, until people start doing things the right way, they're going to keep getting the wrong results. Quincy Olivari sitting in the G League. Congratulations to him today. He signed with Under Armour by way of Steph Curry's line as the second player that they've signed after De'Aaron Fox. Now, do you think that Under Armour would invest in a player that they didn't think was going to get out of the G League? They have every intention of getting him off the Lakers and putting him on a starting team somewhere, yo. He has corporate money behind him now. The Lakers need to get with the times, as I said. This is a player who has charisma off the court, has a following of people that already like him already, and you refuse to use him? How silly do you look, Los Angeles, when you have the Los Angeles market and you have a player with that much charisma and you don't see the fruit in using him? It's like you don't realize who you are or what it is you have. But Under Armour and Steph Curry understands it. All these different programs that keep putting him on their interview process, they understand it. The TV people are telling you, yo, we like this kid. I ain't never seen a G League guy get more interviews than Quincy Olivari. This is a gold mine. You got a TV, someone you could put in the uniform and have people root for him, and you don't even want to put him on the floor. Like, you're missing the point. You're in Los Angeles, Rob. Like, you know, this is where the charismatic make their way. The Will Smiths and the Jamie Foxxes of the world. It's like you having them sitting on the back of the bench. It doesn't make any sense, man. And so for me, I'm just like, yo, all right, y'all. I get it. Y'all in an era where you got the leverage of LeBron James to prioritize. But Bronny James is hurt. He's not playing. You're not developing him as a point guard. You're not even making sense with him and the piece that he's supposed to be. You're not even making sense with that. So it's not like you're utilizing him in such a way that makes any, that allows for him to showcase himself. I mean, it's just, and this is why I don't believe that we have the people in place that can find what we need in the short term with what it is that we have. I don't think that they're looking at things the way that I think you should when you're about to do something great. I don't see it. I just see a bunch of people who are reeling from mistakes that they've made, trying to figure things out, and they're not necessarily comfortable making any moves because of the mistakes they've already made. And that's not who we need in place. We need people who know exactly what they're doing and who are executing things the smartest way possible, not just the most careful way possible, but the smartest way possible. This is parallel to switching everything on defense. I don't need you to switch everything on defense. I need you to use switch logic, meaning switching when it's necessary. Even if it's necessary 90% of the time, knowing when the 10% time is not, and making sure you don't switch on those plays. It's the equivalent. It's the same idea with the front office. And so for me, I'm just like, man, listen, this is why I have my channel, because I try to provide people some guidance. But at the end of the day, I can lead you to water, but I cannot force you to drink. Franchise health, player development, structural organizational front office stuff needs to be figured out. And you got to start hiding people that are struggling for opportunities at players who can balloon into something greater than they're expected to be. You have a couple of those pieces and you're reluctant to play them. You have a couple players who've been itching for bigger opportunities and you've been reluctant to provide those. And your team is struggling. Rui Hachimura's been hot for 3 games. He's hit 15 straight 3-point shots and he's only averaging 6 attempts a night. And you've lost all of those games. JJ, it's time to start featuring Rui a bit more, friend. It's time to start using a little logic when it comes to this. Play the percentages, feed the hot hand, for God's sakes, friend. And you could raise his trade value and maybe won't have to add a first-round pick if you can get some 30 and 40-point games out of Rui Hachimura. All he is a rhythm scorer. Just feed him. If this were a damn video game, I'd have him averaging 25 points a game because he's going to get the ball about 9-10 times a quarter, as hot as he's been shooting. You know what I mean? It's like, and Bron would have 20 assists. Why do you think, let me ask y'all something. We just played the Hawks tonight. Why do you think Trae Young has 20 assists? How do you think he's walking away with the most assists in the whole league this year? The most assists since John Stockton. It's because he's identifying that he has a bunch of red hot shooters on his team and he's finding them repeatedly. He's spamming the hell out of DeAndre Hunter. He's spamming the hell out of Bogey. He's spamming the hell out of Resache. He's spamming the hell out of
out of Dyson Daniels, out of Johnson, out of Okongwu. His whole team is full of offensive players. He don't need to attempt 40 shots. He can get 20 assists. The Lakers need to take a page out of his book and start feeding the hot hand and valuing the assists more. You think Trae Young can't go for 50 points? Of course he can. But guess what he values? The assists, the continuity, the overall uplifting when everybody's getting fed comfortably. He still eats. So that's why I get frustrated in so many different layers of what the Lakers got going on the court, in the front office, how we're structuring what we want to do with our future in the short term, what people think their choices are as it pertains to either or, gotta go all in or trade it all out. All of that black and white thinking is a big part of the problem. Bad evaluation of player and stuff like that, making sure that you give away really good talent for lesser dudes. You know, demanding that we give away picks for role players and starters. I must have washed up ass dude in Washington. I must have Dorian Finney-Smith as he reaches retirement almost. I must trade away all of my future for Walker Kessler. Like, this is poor player evaluation, man. I can't stress this enough. Y'all don't know what the hell y'all talking about. You really don't. You're onto something when you say we need a center. You're off of something when you say how much you're willing to pay for that center and how much you expect for them to do for you versus Jokic. Like, I just can't stress this enough. It's the ignorance in that regard that leads Lakers down the path of failure. You know what I mean? Like, literally. And that's where I come in, to help people understand what it is I see and hope they'll incorporate some of these thoughts into their thinking. That's all I'm trying to do, man. BDL 44, I thank you all for watching. I'm out.